It's a real pleasure for me to, I've introduced him now 4 or 5 times, so I'll do it one more time. It's a real pleasure for me to introduce Mr. Andreas Stefani.
Hey.
You're awesome, man. Which I didn't mean to go through the mic with him.
I didn't mean to. This is going to be an abbreviated version for several reasons. One of them, I don't want to be up here for hours, because being up here for hours, honestly, I'd rather face every single ex-girlfriend I've ever had or a room full of lawyers. Second reason is that this story has been abbreviated to protect the innocent. And as well, there's some gory details that are simply not rock appropriate. Let's just get myself comfortable here, fix this mic. Bear with me.
Are you comfortable if I video this?
Pardon?
Are you comfortable if I video this and share it on Instagram, or would you like it confidential?
You can do whatever you want with it, Julie. It's okay. Running. Running. A run away. To this very day, I can't listen to that 1950s classic from Del Shannon. It was from one of my earliest recollections of childhood. I was 4 years old. My parents were fighting again. Plates were being smashed. Chairs knocked over. My father inebriated, hitting my mom. My mom smacking my father back. My mom reaching for the kitchen knife to protect herself, to protect me and my younger brother. And all the while, Del Shannon's Runaway playing in the background. I can't listen to it. When I look back, I was basically running from everything. My dad had a huge heart, a gentleman, a humanitarian, a true intellectual. However, when my father drank, he got malevolent. When I was 8, my mom was diagnosed with cancer. She would have to go for weeks on end to St. Joe's. That obviously meant that Dad was running the house underneath the roller coaster. My Uncle Stefani was a surgeon and then went into family practice, and he took me aside one day, told me the chances of my mom beating cancer were slim, and that I'd best prepare for her inevitable death. I wanted to cry my eyes out, but I couldn't. I just couldn't. From a young age, I was conditioned not to cry. My northern German upbringing would not permit it. If I cried, I got hit twice as hard. Germans aren't allowed to cry. So I ran away. Again, a repeating factor for most of my life. My mom, thank God, beat cancer. She knocked it on its ass. After beating the emperor of all maladies, she had to divorce my father. She loved my dad and still does. However, through my father's drinking, my mother felt that the stress she endured had caused her to have the cancer. My father, during a binge session during Christmas of 1982, was cut loose and dropped off at my own Uncle Stefani's. Once again, I wanted to cry, but I couldn't. How dare I show weakness? Again, I ran away. Years passed. My father fought hard to get sober. Sometimes Dad would last a year or two, only to fall off the wagon again. He desperately missed my mom. He was in tremendous pain, partially from missing my mom, and partially from being raised by his parents, who were still under the impression that it was 1939. It was a cycle of abuse, almost ritual abuse, passed from generation to generation, with the underlying theme: don't cry, don't show weakness. Dad, though, he had his own version of running away. He drank. Fast forward a few years. My mom was all set to get remarried again. I always knew this would happen. And like a typical adolescent, I harbored dreams that she would marry Joe Perry from Aerosmith or one of the Rolling Stones. Au contraire. She married a high school principal. Yeah! A high school principal known for authority. Respect my authority. Needless to say, full contact blows were exchanged by two alpha males, myself and my new stepdad. On the day of the wedding, I had to go see my dad. My father and I went for a walk, Lake Ontario. My dad was despondent. I tried my best to cheer him up, but, was a 15-year-old though. Then Dad took off his wedding ring and went to throw it in the lake. I grabbed his hand, told him I would hold on to the ring for him. Still got it. I don't call it my precious. I knew my dad was going to run again. Run into a bar, get inebriated. I begged him to take a cab. Then I went to the wedding. At the wedding reception and throughout the ceremony, I tried to smile. I tried my hardest. I look back at some of these photos, and I see a young man who's in immense pain. I needed to kill the pain. Then I thought about my dad. He was drinking to cope. I immediately did the same at the reception. I got gloriously inebriated for the first time in my life. Finally, a magic potion to help keep me running, to help fuel me to keep running. I was hooked. A few years later, my father tragically died in a bar. I had to identify his body, sign some paperwork, and just like Dad, I ran away again, straight to the bar. And then started a bar fight. Why not, right? Getting hit didn't bother me. In fact, some sense of it actually, I know it sounds strange, but I kind of enjoyed it. Hitting back was a release, another conduit for me running away again. Throughout the rest of my life, I was a functioning alcoholic. It was my way of putting gas into the tank to keep running away. In the senseless marathon. Much later in my life, I injured my back. And the doctor who was in Merge, one of those doctors that should be put out to pasture, he's wearing flippers. He walks in all nonchalantly and says, "Man, take these. These are OxyContin. They'll help your back." Right. I was so naive. I had no clue that, OxyContin was an analgesic, which is basically a painkiller. It's another word for it, fancy word for it, $10 word for it. Oxy was a painkiller. Having said that, after years of taking it, it killed the pain. And just about everything else. My wife, my rock. Lesser women would have walked away from me. I'm my wife. She is my rock. Still is. My wife, some close friends, and my family doctor helped me get sober from the Oxy. But then I was faced with a new problem. I had to find new ways of running away. I did not want to face my past. I ran away from my lucrative job in radio. I ran to college. Then I found the Living Rock. In fact, I was on my way to an exam and Alan Karen called me. We have a position available. I'll take it. Yeah. I'd stopped running. Then something really strange occurred. I finally had to face my feelings, my life, and the wreckage of my past. I was at the Rock one day, working, and something inside me just, it finally came out, like a volcano. It just finally burst out. Something inside me exploded. I had a job I loved, a family I loved, but the pain that I'd been running from was finally set loose. A caring, kind boss walked into my office, found me sobbing. I'd never sobbed before. It wasn't allowed. Germans aren't allowed to cry. Now I realize it's a positive outlet. I can't trust a person who cannot cry. But I then revealed to my boss that there were days that I wanted to pray to Jesus, and there were some days that I prayed to die. Staff rallied around me and insisted I go to St. Joe's. I went with my boss, kicking and screaming, but to her credit, Cindy stayed with me that entire day. Finally, after years of hostile resistance, I employed the services of a psychotherapist. I dreaded what was to come. When I saw Judy on the Zoom screen, however, I knew deep in my gut that I could finally talk and stop running. Judy told me it was okay to cry. Judy walked me through a lot of unpacking, which was extremely painful, but it was necessary. Judy gave me homework assignments that seemed completely daft, but I did them anyway. After several months, I finally felt that I was squared away. Therapy works. It really does. Please believe me. However, it only works if you work at it. I can now say that I took the past and put it into a comfortable side of my brain, and now have a clear vision for the future. I'm truly blessed. God has blessed me. God has put me into a field where I can help young folks who are running away. God has blessed me with a beautiful family. God's delays are not God's denials. Many folk here at the Rock sometimes see me with a frown. I can't change the face that I've had all my life. And yes, there is a part of me that will always be sad. But now I focus on all the good that God has bestowed on me. In a nutshell, it's great to be here. It's great to be anywhere. Side note, I was baptized at the church across the street from the Living Rock. Truly, God does have a sense of humor. God does have a sense of humor. Really, I mean, look at the platypus. God has placed me where I should be. Thank you to the staff here at the Living Rock. All of you have always had my back. I love you all, even if I'm frowning. And in the very least, however, I'm no longer running. You know, throughout all the years of fighting and running, I realized I was wrong. Cue it up, Kyle.